something extraordinary happened behind the polished walls of royal power, and according to the whispers now echoing from California to Buckingham Palace, it may have changed everything. What if the final bridge between Prince Harry and the monarchy didn't collapse because of Harry? What if it collapsed because Meghan Markle allegedly made a move so shocking, so unexpected, that even longtime royal observers were left stunned? Because the story now circulating is not about reconciliation. It is about rejection, absolute rejection. And at the center of it all stands Queen Camilla. For years, the Sussex brand survived on conflict, headlines, controversy, and the constant suggestion that another royal chapter was just around the corner. But suddenly, that formula appears to be failing. The spotlight is no longer as bright. The contracts are no longer creating the same excitement. The public fascination that once generated endless attention seems increasingly difficult to sustain. And according to reports, that growing pressure may have pushed Meghan toward a desperate gamble nobody saw coming. Behind closed doors, while Prince Harry remained publicly distant from many members of the royal family, rumors began spreading that Meghan was allegedly exploring an entirely different strategy. Not through Prince William, not through palace aides, not even through King Charles himself. Instead, the whispers point toward Queen Camilla. And that is where the story becomes explosive, because this was reportedly not an emotional outreach. It was not a heartfelt apology. It was not a family reunion plan. According to royal commentators, it was viewed as something far more strategic, a calculated attempt to reopen a royal connection at a moment when the Sussex brand allegedly needed one more than ever. The irony was impossible to ignore. This was the same Queen Camilla whom Harry criticized in his memoir, the same woman whose relationship with Harry had long been portrayed as deeply strained. Yet suddenly, according to these reports, she became the target of an unexpected olive branch. Why? That question is now fueling endless speculation. Some believe Meghan allegedly recognized where the real power currently sits inside royal circles. While King Charles continues managing health concerns and public duties, many insiders view Camilla as one of the institution's most influential gatekeepers. Access, visibility, family contact, strategic decisions. Everything eventually passes through palace structures that Camilla understands better than almost anyone alive. And that realization may have inspired a bold move. But then came the response, or rather, the lack of one. No dramatic statement, no public feud, no palace briefing, no visible acknowledgement, just silence. Cold, calculated, unbreakable silence. And sometimes silence speaks louder than any royal declaration ever could. According to royal observers, that silence landed in Montecito like a thunderbolt, because when somebody is desperately seeking a door to open, absolute silence often feels worse than hearing the word no. The consequences allegedly spread quickly inside the Sussex household. Reports began emerging about growing tensions, arguments, frustrations, plans falling apart, expectations collapsing. Suddenly, the very strategy designed to create a breakthrough may have produced the opposite effect. Instead of rebuilding connections, it appeared to expose just how far those connections had already drifted. For Harry, the situation reportedly carried an additional layer of pain. If these reports are accurate, he was allegedly confronted with the uncomfortable reality that the woman he publicly criticized had become central to a strategy intended to save the Sussex position. Think about that. The same family dynamics that fueled years of conflict were now allegedly being revisited from an entirely different angle. Not because old wounds had healed, not because trust had been restored, but because circumstances may have demanded it. And as these rumors spread across royal circles, one question kept growing louder. If Queen Camilla refused to open the door, who exactly is left inside the palace willing to do it? Because what happened next would reportedly send an even more devastating message to Prince Harry, one that reached far beyond Camilla's silence and straight into the heart of King Charles's world. The answer, according to the rumors now racing through royal circles, may be nobody. Because just as Meghan's alleged outreach reportedly ran into an icy wall of silence, an even larger development began unfolding behind palace gates. The focus shifted away from California and toward the private world of King Charles himself. And what emerged painted a picture not of reconciliation, but of separation becoming something far more permanent. For months, speculation had continued that father and son might eventually find a way back to one another. Every reported phone call, every birthday message, every tiny interaction became global news. Supporters of the Sussexes pointed to these moments moments as evidence that healing was slowly taking place. But palace observers began noticing something different. Instead of preparing for a reunion, the institution appeared to be preparing for a future without Harry at its center. Quiet changes allegedly started appearing in places most people would never see. Family spaces evolved. Priorities shifted. Attention focused increasingly on the future generation of working royals. And according to the growing whispers, those changes carried a message that was impossible to miss. The monarchy was moving forward, with or without the Sussexes. That realization reportedly hit Harry with enormous force, because while public headlines often focus on titles, ceremonies, and royal protocol, the deeper battle has always been personal. Identity, belonging, family, heritage, those are not things that disappear simply because somebody moves across an ocean. And as Harry approached another stage of life, observers began suggesting that the emotional cost of separation was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Every major royal event served as a reminder. Every new photograph featuring Prince William, Catherine, and their children reinforced the image of a family continuing its journey together. Meanwhile, Harry remained thousands of miles away, watching from a distance. The contrast was impossible to escape. What once looked like liberation to supporters now appeared, at least to critics, more like isolation. And that is where the story takes its most dramatic turn. Because according to those following the situation closely, the growing tension was no longer just between Harry and the palace. It was becoming a battle inside Harry himself. One side represented the life he built in California. The other represented the family, traditions, and history he left behind. And every passing month seemed to make that conflict more intense. Reports of disagreements over future plans, travel arrangements, and royal connections only fueled the speculation. Then attention shifted toward the upcoming international events expected to place Harry back in the public spotlight. Suddenly, questions began multiplying. Would Meghan appear beside him? Would they present a united front? Would the world see confidence, or would it see strain? Every possibility generated another wave of theories. If Meghan stayed away, critics would call it evidence of deeper problems. If she appeared, critics would argue it was a strategic attempt to protect a struggling public image. It seemed there was no easy path forward, and while commentators debated every scenario, Buckingham Palace reportedly continued doing the one thing that frustrated the Sussex camp more than anything else. Nothing. No public counterattacks. No dramatic responses. No visible emotional reaction. Just silence. Relentless silence. The kind of silence that makes every unanswered question feel bigger. The kind of silence that forces others to keep talking while the institution simply carries on. That strategy may ultimately prove to be the most devastating weapon of all, because while headlines come and go, institutions survive by thinking in decades, not news cycles. And if the rumors are true, Buckingham Palace has already made its decision about the future, which leaves Prince Harry standing at a crossroads unlike any he has ever faced before. Ahead lies uncertainty. Behind lies a past he can never fully escape. And somewhere between those two worlds sits the question that continues haunting this entire saga. When every door appears closed, every bridge appears burned, and every attempt at reconciliation appears to fail, what happens next? As summer unfolds and the spotlight grows brighter, the world may soon discover whether this royal drama is approaching its final chapter, or whether the most explosive chapter has yet to begin.